What's up again, everybody? I'm Clayton. Welcome back to Ages of Film, Rebirth, number 17. Today, I'm reviewing The Return of the Living Dead from 1985, directed by Dan O'Bannon. When people think of zombie classics, films like Night of the Living Dead or Dawn of the Dead usually dominate the conversation. But one of the most entertaining and influential zombie movies ever made is The Return of the Living Dead. For me, this is a 3.5-star film. That's a very positive rating. It's not a masterpiece, and it isn't one of the greatest horror films ever made, but it is a very good movie that's consistently entertaining, highly rewatchable, and packed full with personality. What makes The Return of the Living Dead stand out is that it refuses to be a traditional zombie movie. Rather than just copying George A. Romero's formula, it creates its own identity almost immediately. It's horror, it's comedy, it's punk rock, it's chaotic, and most importantly, it's fun. The premise is simple. A military chemical accidentally escapes inside a medical supply warehouse and begins reanimating the dead. What starts as a workplace accident quickly spirals into a full-scale disaster, as every attempt to stop the outbreak only makes things worse. That's one of the movie's greatest strengths. The screenplay is built around escalation. Every decision has consequences. Every solution creates a bigger problem. The characters aren't fighting a threat that's being contained. They're fighting a situation that's constantly slipping further out of control. And that gives the movie tremendous momentum. Once the outbreak begins, the film barely slows down, and its lean runtime helps keep the energy high from beginning to end. Another reason the movie remains beloved is its reinvention of zombie mythology. This film introduced or popularized several ideas that later became staples of zombie fiction. These zombies aren't mindless. They're intelligent. They can communicate. They can strategize. And perhaps most importantly, they're incredibly difficult to stop. The famous brains concept is memorable, but what really makes these creatures effective is that they feel dangerous in a way many zombies don't. The audience quickly realizes the normal rules aren't going to work here. That uncertainty creates genuine tension beneath all the comedy. The practical effects are also excellent. This was the golden age of practical horror in the 80s, and the movie takes full advantage of it. The zombie designs are creative, memorable, and distinct from one another. Even decades later, many of the effects still hold up because they have a physical presence that computer-generated creatures often lack. The Tar Man, for example, has become one of the most iconic monsters in horror history. The atmosphere deserves credit as well. The graveyards, warehouses, nighttime settings, the punk aesthetic gives the film a visual identity that's uniquely its own. Many zombie movies blend together after a while. The Return of the Living Dead doesn't. You can recognize its style almost instantly. The soundtrack reinforces that identity and helps give the film an energy that feels different from virtually every zombie movie that came before it. The cast understands exactly what kind of movie they're making. These aren't deeply complex performances, but they're committed performances. The actors embrace the absurdity of the premise without treating it like a joke, which is one of the reasons the comedy works as well as it does. The film constantly walks a different line between horror and humor, and for the most part, it succeeds. Now, despite all those strengths, there are reasons I stop at a 3.5 instead of going higher. The biggest issue is depth. The movie is incredibly entertaining, but it isn't especially rich. Most of the characters are memorable because of their personalities and quirks, rather than because they're emotionally complex. You enjoy spending time with them, but there aren't many that leave a lasting emotional impact. The film is also more interested in entertainment than exploration. Unlike some of the genre's greatest entries, there's not a great deal beneath the surface to analyze or unpack here. It has interesting ideas, but it doesn't pursue them very deeply. Finally, while the horror comedy balance usually works, there are moments where the comedy slightly undermines the horror. The movie never loses control of its tone, but there are a few scenes where the threat feels less frightening than it probably should. Now, none of these issues ruin the film by any means. They're simply the factors that keep it from reaching the 4-star range. But here's the thing. Not every movie needs to be profound to be successful. Sometimes a film succeeds because it knows exactly what experience it wants to deliver and executes it well. That's the Return of the Living Dead. It's funny, it's energetic, it's creative, it's influential, it's endlessly rewatchable. And 40 years later, it still feels fresh because of many of its ideas were copied by the films that followed. Ultimately, what makes The Return of the Living Dead a 3.5-star film is that it delivers exactly what it promises. It's a widely entertaining horror comedy with memorable zombies, strong practical effects, great pacing, and a personality all of its own. It may not have a depth or craftsmanship required to reach greatness, but it's far better than merely good or decent. It's a very good film, a highly enjoyable watch, and one of the most entertaining zombie films ever made, in my opinion. And that's why The Return of the Dead earns its 3.5-star rating from me. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Do you agree with this score? Do you disagree? Are you a fan of this movie? Are you not a fan? Let me know anything and everything you want to mention about this movie in the comment section. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until next time, kick it and rock on.